The way American pop culture is handled from above, which now goes hand in hand with the way American mass media is handled, where journalism has largely been replaced by celebrity pop culture, I've witnessed with alarm how the dumbing down of the news media, not just from, say, the 70s to the 80s, 80s to the 90s, but now it goes on at warp speed where every 3 months, even a CNN broadcast is much more of a cartoon show than it was even 3 months earlier, where they take one story and stretch it out much longer than it needs to be and not report on anything else. And with pop culture, what the interlocking boards of directors of these lovely corporations, who also in some cases manufacture arms or nuclear power components, General Electric owning NBC, and thus even the so-called liberal network, TV network MSNBC, still had to answer to the executives of General Electric. And so what you get was as I said, just the discourse gets slanted more and more to the right, and if Tiger Woods' penis is in the news, they will talk about that and completely ignore torture in Iraq, a collapsing economy, whatever. Don't worry about losing your job. Worry about whether Charlie Sheen is drunk again. Everybody needs to do their part to keep up with the state. Well, in America, it's everybody needs to keep up with the Joneses. Shut up and shop. Shut up and shop. And eventually they even found a way to do that with punk. I'm surprised it took so long, but it wasn't until Green Day broke really big, right after Bad Religion started getting big, and Pennywise and Rancid and Offspring sold something like 8 million albums on Epitaph and Independent, which had never happened before. Then finally this music that we all love, that we thought, some of these songs should have been hits years ago, the stuff like the Adolescents did and TSOL and whatnot, those are radio hits that never got on the radio. But then these later bands who took their inspiration from those original Orange County punk bands did take over the airwaves, and all of a sudden, even people working in banks had Sid Vicious haircuts and stuff, and even something that's basically a boy band with spiky hair and tattoos like Good Charlotte is considered punk, so to speak. And they've done this with Rage Against the Machine too, who were major label from the get-go. But okay, now that we know people like that sound, what can we do to find bands that sound like that but sing about pussy or something and push that instead? There's always going to be ways of co-opting that. And many people were just enraged when suddenly Green Day went from playing Gilman Street to playing basketball arenas. And the scene is ruined. This is all so bad. But I kept telling people, come on. They're talented at what they do. This is going to happen to somebody sooner or later. If it's that upsetting to you, go deeper underground and support the people you like and ignore mainstream pop culture as much as I have since 8th grade. The Clash were major label from the get-go and were always seemingly very rock star conscious, and there was the whole hero thing surrounding the Clash that I was, cynical about from the very beginning. And the Clash in America were deliberately marketed differently than they were in Britain. The first time they came over, they denied they were a political band and denied they were a punk band. And an album or two later, in some ways, maybe they were right. I don't know. And you know, they played big festivals. They opened for The Who, had a huge hit with Should I Stay or Should I Go? And I don't know whether they ever paid the Righteous Brothers any royalties for lifting the riff of Little Latin Loop-a-Loo for that song, but that they were always a corporate thing from on CBS from the very beginning. After Green Day got so huge, the other major labels were caught with their pants down, just like they were when Nirvana took off. And all of a sudden they were realizing again, oh my God, the youth of today really don't care what Eric Clapton is doing. What are we going to do? And so they were just signing, just like with the grunge bands, they were signing all these bands just to throw mud against the wall and see what sticks. Because all of a sudden, 7 Seconds were signed to Epic. All of a sudden, a band from Washington called Seaweed got $1 million contract with Disney through Hollywood Records. And although, of course, the fine print, I have no idea if they made any money off of that or not in the end, and I don't think they lasted very long. But basically, for a while, yeah, major labels were trying to figure out how to sell more Green Days or find another Offspring or whatever. But what they prefer these days is to run the labels like movie studios are run, where you try and make a handful of blockbusters every year, and say you make half a dozen of them and 5 fail, you bank on the 6th one making all the money back for all the hundreds of millions of dollars you lost on the last blockbusters. And in miniature, that's what the major labels do now. They're not interested in punk, they're not interested in bands per se, they want the next Britney Spears. And if it's a little kooky like Lady Gaga, but it sells, even better. We'll sell that too. Amy Winehouse, we'll happily sell that. If she's fallen in trouble in her personal life, that's her problem. We don't care. And, you know, he took her on when she was 17, and like Lindsay Lohan, didn't really go the extra mile to take care of their prize thoroughbred and everything. It was just, you know, bleed it dry, and if an artist is dead, they may sell even more, so who cares? That's their attitude, basically. And that's what they're after now. They look for blockbusters, because there's all these people trying to groom more Britney Spears, more Avril Lavigne's. Boy bands are a little on the outs, but they'll be back. And they want the blockbusters. They want the new kids on the block. And it doesn't matter if they can't stand the music, because the people who run major labels, especially in America, don't really listen to music. They could be selling insecticide for all they care. Music fans don't work in the upper echelon positions at major labels. And I think they also made a conscious decision a few years ago, okay, if we can't get people to buy the crap we put out, you know, we could put out better music, but why do that when we can just start suing teenagers for file sharing? They've brought in $100 million plus from suing people, or at least threatening to them, you know, a shakedown mobster style, you give us $4,000 now and we won't sue you for $4 million type deal, and they get it off of people. You know, you know, it's extortion basically. $100 million to the major labels and not a penny of that to the artists. Not a penny.